Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Shift. My name is Mark Jeffrey, and I'm here with my host, Linda Layman, and we have a very special guest with us tonight as well, Randy Layman, Linda's husband. Now, we got them here tonight because they had just attended a conference called No Excuses, and it's an industry kind of event where a lot of people from network marketing, direct sales, and even some small business people gather together and share ideas and just come in as a group and talk about what's going on in the industry and different ways that you can market your business and what they're doing. And they're all very successful people. To actually be a presenter or a speaker at No Excuses, you actually have to prove that you have some following, that you're good at what you do, and in fact, extremely good at what you do. They only take the best of the best there. So I thought really, we're always talking about excuses. We're always making up excuses why we're not successful, why whatever we're doing in our lives is just not working. We always can come up with really great excuses so that we can justify, or at least in our own little minds, why we didn't make it. And most of the time we're playing the blame game. Now, I wanted to talk to Linda and Randy. See, I'm going to call you guys the Lindys now, just like Brad and Angie. So, but anyways, I wanted to talk to them today and this evening because it's really important that everyone know that there's a lot of opportunity for you to grow out there. And we talk to people in many, many different sectors. We have people that I work with, Mark's Angels. We've got some, Linda's working with breast cancer and general cancer. People that are out there. Randy's out there with the Beach Bum Medic. He's out there living the life. We all work as entrepreneurs, and we all seek out good information. And so today I wanted to talk to them about attending events, because many, many times people say to me, well, should I attend events? Should I go to these industry events? Will I get anything out of it? I've seen pictures. A lot of it looks like a lot of partying and drinking, and I really don't want to waste my time doing that type of thing. I want to learn. I want to go to like a mastermind where I can really learn and soak up some good information. So I'll go to Randy first on this one. Randy, why did you make the decision to actually go to No Excuses, and what was your experience like?
Evening, Mark. The primary reason we decided to go to No Excuses Summit is to go ahead and move our businesses forward and take it to the next level. And one of the ways to do that is actually go to a solid conference that's highly respected in the industry that you're in, and network and learn from some of the masters that are out there that have been doing it for a long time. You can try to learn something on your own, and in this day and age, that is a possibility, especially with the internet and Google and all the amazing videos that are out there. You can do that, but it takes time, and the industries are constantly changing. So it's always a good idea to go to a solid conference, and I think that's the key right there, is really find high-quality conferences where experts in whatever business or industry you're in are there, and you learn an awful lot, not only from the presentations, but you learn a tremendous amount from behind the scenes when they're off stage, when you sit there and network with them.
Well, Randy, how did you decide that No Excuses would be a good event to attend? Like, what was your deciding? What was your process in deciding that event would be one that would be valuable to you? Because of course there are many that are available for people to go to. Why was this one important to you?
Well, it was targeting specifically to the industries that we're in, which is direct sales, internet marketing, network marketing, and also working with small businesses. And so we started looking at the lineup. We'd had some information from some key mentors that we've known through the years, and their thought process and recommendations of different conferences. And then we started looking at the lineup of the keynote speakers that they were bringing in, and we actually did a due diligence and looked at their backgrounds and their capabilities and history. and also looked at some of the presentations they've done online before. You know, you can go to YouTube and find about anything. So we could see what they've brought to the table in the past, and it resonated with us. So our key was we did a little bit of research, talked to some experts in the industry that we trust and know very well, and did a due diligence on the keynote speakers to see if they really are bringing to the table what we're interested in, and that's how we made our decision.
Interesting. And Linda, you also attended with Randy, and did it meet your expectations? Was it what you thought it was going to be? And what did you gain by actually attending the event?
Mark, yes, it not only met, but I believe it exceeded my expectations. I remember even on the first day, which was a partial day, was Friday evening. After it finished at 9 o'clock at night, Randy and I looked at each other and realized very quickly this was going to be a lot of information overload, but in a good way. Big takeaways for me. Well, first of all, I like to stand back and observe, and as I watched people throughout the event, it became very clear the people who are the top performers, not only the ones that were speaking on stage, but also the ones who were actually in attendance. And I could tell right away that they were doing this, they were committed to gaining absolutely everything that they could gain out of this weekend. And I know that there were some people there who really came just to party, but I didn't see them during the actual sessions of the events. And it's very interesting to me as a personal growth coach that the people who were there and committed to it truly understand the value of opening yourself up to learn something else, something new. I like to approach it from the standpoint of listen to this speaker or listen to this person, even if you're just in a conversation, as if you had zero knowledge of what they were talking about. And you can absorb so much more. The killer for anyone trying to retain a business or get into business, or even if it's just promoting themselves in their own job, 4 killer words that anyone can either think or speak are, I already know that. Because if you go into something saying, I already know that, I don't need to listen, you're going to miss out on tons of stuff.
Well, and I think that does happen, Linda, that some people who come to what they believe, and I'm going to say they believe, is the pinnacle of their knowledge, they sometimes stop growing then, right? Because I know everything now. I don't need to go to that. I mean, and the same thing. I'm in personal development as well, and emotional intelligence. I never stop learning from people who, even people that have only been studying or doing something for a couple of days, or somebody that's made it through something that I have not experienced in my life, gives me new strength when I come up against a challenge because I learn from them. And it's interesting how I found the same thing that you did, that some people just stop in their tracks. Well, I know everything that I need to know, and I'm teaching people this. But the reality is they're shunted in their growth. And Randy, I know that we talk a little bit about mentorship, and I know that that's a valuable resource for you. And was there an opportunity while you were there? Because I think a lot of people wonder, will these people be approachable? Will I be able to chat with them? Will I learn, or do I just sit and listen? So tell me a little bit about how approachable and accessible these people were to you.
Sure. I think the one thing that was apparent right off the bat is those leaders that have been extremely successful in the industry were very approachable. I did not see a single one of them that had that superhero image or rich and famous image. And we're talking about a lot of people here that are 7 to 8 figure earners on a yearly basis. So they're making some serious money, and they dressed casually. They were very comfortable with themselves. They did not have any airs about them. It wasn't like a Hollywood celebrity event at all with these folks, which was very, very nice to see. They were very approachable, and I think that's a lesson for anybody in any business that, it takes a lot of hard work and energy to get to that level. But once you get to that level, don't forget where you came from and open yourself up and teach others, because that's as rewarding as anything else out there. The money's always nice, but it's just as important to help others find out what you've experienced and learn what you've experienced in life and become just as successful. And I saw that time and time again at this conference. The leadership that was there was just exactly that. So, it's a good lesson learned. The other thing that I noticed also is the leadership, even when they weren't speaking, the ones that really were of the value and the quality that we would look for, stayed at the event. Just like you and Linda had already mentioned, they're there to continue learning. You're always learning in life. If you're not, you're moving backwards, quite frankly. If you're not constantly striving and trying to learn more, you're taking steps backwards, because industries always change. And even though these guys and gals have been extremely successful in life, they still were sitting there and picking up knowledge from others that they can apply to their business. And the ones that did that are definitely the ones that I want to follow.
Well, exactly. And for me, I know that was always my mastermind. My personal mastermind is how many people can I connect with and find out what they're doing and how they perceive things and how they see the future, so that even when I'm home alone and with me and my own computer and that's it, I can also have the vision of other people and say, well, what direction am I going in? And when I see many, many people, and you're right, Randy, in 7- and 8-figure earners, and if they're still making that money, then they're still doing something right. And maybe they've made a shift that I have not made yet. And maybe if I make that shift a slight left or right from the center of where I am right now, that could increase my profitability and my access to be able to help other people as well. So I think that's a really valuable thought process that both you and Linda had going into this. And I know a lot of people don't. They have followed someone to the event. For instance, they are in someone's quote-unquote downline, or they're following, and they follow them around and close themselves off to the other people. And I think sometimes it's because they think, well, if I don't go to whatever they're doing over there in the corner, or I don't follow them to the next party and I stay here, they're going to think that I'm not loyal to them or something. And I know that you and Linda don't have that kind of mindset, but I'm sure that, do you think people could easily be drawn into that and maybe miss out because of it?
Absolutely. We witnessed it happening, and it's disappointing. But I know too that those folks will find their way. It's not something that you can push on somebody. If we were to have gone up to one of those that we saw in this little circle and mentioned our observation, I know it would not have been well received. But they'll learn. But I'm sure that they did not gain as much knowledge as we did, unless they purchase the recording and go back and listen to it. But it's one of those very subtle lessons, but it's a very, very important lesson to learn. Whatever type of event that you're attending, whether it's I want to say more global event like the No Excuses was, or just even a company specific event, is to be independent and go there with your intention set to be open to learning and absorbing absolutely everything you can. when you were little and you were going to your first party, your parents probably told you, mingle. That doesn't change. Even attending events, mingle, circulate, get to know, get to connect with a whole lot of people, not just your core group or the boys on one side, the girls on the other. You gain so much more experience and you gain so much more life if you open yourself up and try to touch as much and as many as you possibly can at an event. One of the things. Go ahead.
I was just going to say on that, when you the first night that you were there, and as it was probably because your time in the industry per se has not been hundreds of years like everybody professes they've been in, and so you've got, I would say for the most part, a very unjaded, a very innocent outlook on this whole entire industry, which I find very fresh and renewing myself sometimes because of it, because of your energy. And I think first and foremost, that's your natural energy, which is why it always uplifts me to have you within my sphere of people that I know. But when you went there, did you find that was the basic premise? Like, what was the energy like there, and how did you feel coming into this and really not attending something like this before? What did you feel coming in? Because we want people to attend events. We want them to go outside of wherever they are, whoever they're working with, because it's important that they do go out and attend things like this and not feel like, well, if I do this, my company's not going to like me. Because I, like you, Linda, believe the same thing. When we were out doing, when I was teaching sales and stuff like that, we would have regional conferences for us. And I was right in there rolling up my sleeves going, well, what do you do? How do you do it? What do you do over there? And they kept going, well, you're the speaker. Why are you asking us? And I'm going, because I'm learning from you. And so was it the same type of atmosphere? And is that how you felt?
Yeah, the atmosphere was very highly charged. A piece of advice I would give anyone who might be skeptical of going to an event is don't assume that it's just one big party. Because, yeah, there are sections and segments and some people who are just there to party. They're not there to learn, but I have to say that that's the minority. It's better to approach it from a human point of view. Everybody in that room is just like you. And everybody in the room, no matter what their status, has the same opportunities that you do, or you have the same opportunities that they do. And even they are there, the ones that you maybe sometimes put up on a pedestal, they're there to learn too. And I found the energy very high, very positive, and I was refreshed to feel that the majority of people there, and I would say 90-something% of the people there, were truly there to learn, to share, and to connect with others. And that's the way I approached it, so that's the people I attracted too.
Well, and of course, both of us do believe in, who we are, we will attract, and I totally agree with you, because there's too many instances in my life that verify that fact, as well as the fact is if you believe in something and are going to put due diligence towards it and be committed to something like you were going to the event, that good things will come of it. So Randy, tell us a little bit about what did you learn? Do you have some nuggets for the people here of things that really hit you hard about something that we can provide and give to other people that they can share as well?
Sure. And I think there was kind of an undertow that all the speakers had was kind of the same principle that was expressed throughout the conference, and there's 3 core values. And these core values can be applied to anything, not only business, but just in life in general. And those 3 core pieces that they emphasized repeatedly was knowledge. And when they talked about knowledge, they talked about real knowledge. And their point on real knowledge is, again, do your due diligence and look and search for quality knowledge out there in whatever you're doing, whatever business or personal life or hobbies or whatever. Really go out and explore it and do some research and find some high-level knowledge to apply to whatever it is. The second thing was set up a strategy. In the business world, especially as an entrepreneur, too many people have a tendency to jump in and have no clue as to what they're doing. They put together zero strategy, and that's why, quite frankly, 90% of them end up failing within the first year, is because they just don't know what they're doing and have no plan. So a strategy is extremely important, and again, that can be applied to just your personal life or a hobby or whatever you're doing in life. Put together a strategy and a plan to carry it out. And then the last portion is critical, obviously. You can have the first two, the knowledge aspect and the strategy aspect, but if you don't take the third part, action, it doesn't matter. You can be an expert in the field, have great knowledge, and have a wonderful strategy put together, but if you don't take action and apply that, you won't be successful. And so those were the three steps. And again, I think these are three steps that you can apply to anything, not just business world, but everything you do in life. Put together a good knowledge base of real, true knowledge, develop a strong strategy of how to carry out that knowledge, and then take action on that plan. And quite frankly, that right there, to me, was more than just nuggets. Those were gold bullion bricks, basically, that they were telling everybody. And if you apply that to your life, you'll be very successful in whatever you do.
And I am in total agreement with that, Randy. But let's go back here a little bit, and I want to talk about strategy. And I really think that to me, you can go out there and get a lot of knowledge, but it's hard sometimes to actually figure out what is going to be good for you and what is not, because I love the commercials that they have on TV right now, is that just because you can find it on the internet doesn't mean you can do it. And I think that people have to be very, very, what you guys do your due diligence. Check out these people that are offering you information, because that's the thing that is nice, I guess, on one hand, is that there's no hiding places for some of these people. It used to be it came into your email and you couldn't research or do anything, and people could get scammed every which way from Sunday. And in fact, I'm actually really surprised that infomercials still do so well, because I'm sure that people run from the TV right onto the internet and find out if there's anything bad that anybody said about that before they run right back and make that purchase. But strategy to me is really important, because I agree with you. Too many people decide that one day I'm going to quit my job, or they lose their job, or they find themselves in circumstances that are very harmful to them. And they make the decision that, well, I saw a thing on TV, or I saw a thing in my email that said that just start your own home business. They go to some site and it says, 1, 2, 3, you're on the net, you're, blogging, do a blog a day, and you're going to be a millionaire in the next 90 days. And they fall into that. And they don't do their due diligence. They don't gather the knowledge. Like, they don't go researching some of these people and find out, oh, well, wait a second, they're not doing 1, 2, 3. They're also out there doing YouTube videos. They're on radio shows. They're doing this. They're doing that. So if they're doing all of those things, then obviously the 1, 2, 3, it's not going to get me to that level of money. And they don't sit down and say, what's in my budget? What can I afford? And then can be tempted into the, well, you have to buy in at the upper level if you really want the information. And so some people fall way off the mark. So I'm gonna actually lob this over to you, Linda. How would you put somebody in the proper mindset to not to kind of dampen down, not take away their enthusiasm, because obviously we need that to be successful, but to stop, look and listen, I guess. What would you say to them?
Well, first of all, I think it's very important for people to listen to their intuition, follow. it's a cliche, follow your heart, but we really do have an internal guidance system. And as we're doing this due diligence, I mean, somebody comes and they're all excited about it. I think it's very important to explore why they're excited about it. And it's also important to explore, start exploring what's the true outcome, what's the true results that they want to see. I mean, I can get excited about an infomercial just as much as anybody else, or something that comes into my email. But number one, I tap into myself. Okay, does this fit? Does this fit with my goals or my dreams? Is this going to get me closer to my goal in the long run? And quite frankly, if somebody says, well, I don't really have a goal, that's a really good place to start before you start jumping on board with this, that, and the other thing, is to see what the goals are, and those are going to be directly tied to your values. So that would be something else that we would discuss is, let's see what your true core values are, because as long as we're acting and conducting ourselves within those core values, we're going to be guided down the right path if we just listen. So tap into our core values, have our goals in mind, have our goals set, and definitely do the research. Research the company, research the people, find out the truth, and make sure that it still feels good. I mean, I'm the first one to admit that even recently I've gone against my gut feeling. I've gone against my intuition, and it came up and it bit me. I'm not going to go into details, but it was a lesson learned, and I'm not going to beat myself up over it. It's just like, okay, I did this. Linda, forgive yourself. Lesson learned, a huge lesson once again. Listen to that intuition. It's not going to steer you wrong. So those are a couple of the beginning pieces of advice. This roadmap, this strategy, Mark, is just so incredibly important, because if you don't really know where you're going, and how are you going to know if this opportunity or that opportunity is really going to fit with you, right?
Exactly. And I, you know what? I see this every day too, is when people are coming into my business, I challenge them. I really do challenge them to prove to me that they are really in the right opportunity and it will really work for whatever their goals and their dreams are. Because from my perspective, I can think this is the best thing since sliced bread, but that's not relevant when I'm talking to somebody and bringing them into my business, because I don't know them. I don't know them. Unless I've met them and there's somebody I happen to know, mind you. But I mean, for the most part, if there's somebody that comes onto my website from somewhere in the world out there and they, say, hey, I want to start a business and I picked you, I'm really diligent about how I make them jump through hoops in order to, again, prove to me not that you have value as a person, but that you don't get hurt. And I don't think enough people do that. I think that most people just want to have people in their business. They're going to take their hits wherever they take it. But I think that's a lesson that everyone should really keep in their heart, especially if you decide that you want to work on the Internet and you're in it for the long haul, because your reputation is going to matter greatly to your success. And it's too easy nowadays to do damage to a reputation. And it's funny how I know you and Randy both experienced something that hurt both of you this past couple of weeks. And since then, it's just serendipity, of course, that it comes across and my people giving me information and other people talking about it. So I'm thinking some other people just probably fell through those that same grate this past week with other people in the industry as well. And they're a lot disheartened, but a lot bitter. I really like the attitude that both you and Randy have about this, that it was a disappointment. And luckily, I think on a financial level, you were able to you weren't damaged entirely by it. But let's talk a little bit about being careful with people and bringing them into business, because it may be their last dollar and you might know it. Randy, I know that you're someone, for me, who has a lot of integrity and honesty, and I know that that's why when you're done wrong, why it hurts you so tremendously. But can you give anybody advice as to maybe things that people might say or do that you should be leery of, where you should question things that maybe you didn't?
Sure. I'll be happy to do that. And then there's a little something else that I kind of learned on the weekend, or last week, that I'll mention as well. But first, I would say these things, and these are just common thought processes if you're getting into any industry. If someone is trying to promote an industry to your business, if they immediately start asking about, what can you afford, or really don't do really go into a deep thought process and conversation with you as to what you're really wanting to accomplish, but yet trying to sell you, get out of there immediately, because they don't have your heart or your thoughts in it. All they're wanting to do is make a buck. In fact, one of the things that I'm discovering as I go along is the people that are very successful at this really don't even promote business at the beginning at all. They sit there and listen. They listen to the prospect, the person that's wanting to get into a business, and really listen to what they want to accomplish in life and what their goals and objectives are and what their passions and why they're wanting to be successful or get into a business. And then that helps them, the business owner, put together a plan of how they can help them. And in most situations, what I'm finding out is they will then give advice and recommendations and not even promote anything at that time. There's plenty of time to promote a product down the line or a business down the line. First steps is get to know the customer or the prospect and let them get to know you. And I think that's a big key. Part of that branding is let them, as we used to say down south, let the two dogs sniff each other's tail and see if they're compatible or not. If they're growling at each other, they're probably not very compatible. What you're wanting is someone that you're comfortable with and they're comfortable with you. And if that's the case, then you guys can get into a business relationship and work with each other. The other thing that I found real interesting at the conference, some of the people that have been extremely successful, and again, some of this conference was network marketing or multi-level marketing, and some of the people did that. And what traditionally you have thousands of people or hundreds of people in your downline, to be successful in that, or in your first line and all that. But some of the people that are very successful had very few people in their first line, or directly sold to from them or brought into the business by them. And the reason why they're successful is they help those people be successful. They help them build their businesses one by one, and then after they build their businesses, then they help them bring other people into the business and help them build the business. And they keep doing that until they can find someone else out there that's a teacher, just like they are, and then they allow that teacher to do the same thing. Because you can bring in lots of people into any business, but if they don't know what they're doing, and if you don't nurture them and be a true teacher to them, they won't be successful and you won't be successful. And so for the long run, if you're really going to do business seriously, promote it, but also take care of it. One of the things that I heard that I thought was really cool, that it was a saying that one of the speakers said, as we go into the Jetsons future in industry, the people that are going to be successful are the ones that think and act like the Flintstones. And basically what they're saying is it's time to be focusing back on old school sales techniques, which was the old brick and mortar, which was what our parents and grandparents used to do with the brick and mortar. They became part of the community, and everybody in the community knew them and treated them with respect, because they, as business owners, treated the community with respect and treated them like family. And everybody knew everybody, and that's why they were successful. And it's time for the industries to get back to that.
That's exactly true as well, and I find it myself. Because I am a public speaker, I like the fact that when I'm out somewhere, I see people's faces. I actually, can touch people and talk to them. And it was hard for me to kind of transition to the internet, where you might work with somebody for 2 or 3 years and actually never meet them. You just don't, you never meet them. You might see their face on the website, and for me, it was hard because I like exactly what you're talking about, like having people and having them as part of my life, and what I think every day, and that I'm responsible for their success. I want them to succeed, and I want to be there to help them. And you're right, Randy, I can't bring 1,000 people, or like we do. We talk to 5,000 people at a time when we're out on the road. Well, I certainly couldn't just say, okay, I'll join my business tomorrow, and I'll guarantee you all are going to make all this money within the next 90 days, because it would be impossible for me to have the time to spend with each and every one of them. But yeah, if I touch 1 or 2 or 3 people and say, yeah, I can help you, I will spend the time to be able to do that. But you're exactly right. Sometimes when we're talking about the MLM and thing, everybody's, we have 100 million people in our business. Well, how can you service, when you have maybe 5 top leaders in a business, how can you service every single person in every way that they're going to need to be able to do that effectively if you're bringing them in like by the boatload, right? It doesn't make any sense to me. Does it make sense to you?
No, not at all. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So, people want to be, they want to be touched. They want to be treated as a person, and they deserve it. Everybody deserves attention. And we all thrive on that connection. In the long run, we're all connected anyway, and it's recognizing that connection. So, I agree with you that, if people are bringing them in like herds of cows, then you're not gonna get the attention, and it falls back on you to have the drive to do it yourself. And it goes back to what you were saying about getting to know the people that are coming to you for whatever service or product that they found interesting. It's kind of like, if somebody comes to you and says, yeah, I want to work with you, and you sell snake oil, but they can't stand snake oil, you know that they're not going to be successful in your business. And it's time to have that conversation so that you stay true to yourself and authentic. And then if there's something else down the road that they click with later on, okay, then's the time to work with them.
Well, and I think oftentimes, and I believe at least, that sometimes people, they've risked it all on one venture. And that means they put in everything into one ball of wax, and that melted on them. And at that point, they became desperate because, of course, in the interim, they've built a lifestyle. They've lived large. They might have the big houses, the boats, the cars, and all of that stuff because they were living in a material world. And I have a totally different break from that because I always, for my whole entire life, it doesn't matter. It never mattered how much money I had. It was always interesting to me to actually even say that to people because they'll say, well, how much money did you make? And I say, it never matters. I can have $2 or $2 million because I don't live in that world. I live in what do I need to satisfy my needs, and the rest is just bonus points. And I've always had enough, and I live that way. And I think that if people do live that way, is what do you need, and make sure that you got your butt covered in that respect. And if everything beyond that is going to be living large, you're not going to get yourself into a position where you have to then maybe lie to people or mislead people, if we're being very diplomatic about that, take people's money when you shouldn't, and maybe you corrupt your own moral standard because you created this big image and you're on the internet and you've been living large for the last 5 or 6 years, and all of a sudden your circumstances change. where mine would be humble to say, look, my world crumbled. And I actually had another friend that this exact same thing happened to. Very, very well-known person. I won't bring it up now, but, you know, had started a venture last year. It just totally fell apart underneath her. And she just came right out in public and said, you know what? It just fell apart, and now I'm rebuilding. But some people can't do that. They can't, the ego gets in the way. And now they get into trouble because they have this lifestyle or this illusion that they built of wealth and prosperity, and now they're stuck in that and can't get out of it. And for me, I guess it saddens me a little bit, but that's the one thing I always say to people is it doesn't matter about the money. It never matters about the money, because we hear about it every day, people that win the Powerball and they're broke the next year, bad decisions. If you can't handle $2, you need to really reevaluate your life. And Linda, I'm going to let you close out another show with your thoughts, and maybe even Randy chime in as well, on how to hold yourself down when maybe you only were making $20,000 a year and you actually do work diligently and you get to yourself where you're making that in a month. How do you hold yourself down and make yourself think like you did at a $20,000 earner?
Great question. Little twist on the perspective here. I think it's all in how people actually view money. So many people, I guess, reverse what it really is. Money is something, it's our servant. I mean, truly, if you look at it, face value, it's just a lot of paper with ink on it. And it's there to serve us. But the majority of people get into an issue, find themselves in an issue because they're trying to serve the money. And that's when a lot of the materialistic things come into play, and they have to have the big house, and they have to do all of this travel and the big cars. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, money is there as a tool for you to use to help you be more comfortable. And then the other aspect of it is there to help you reach beyond your immediate fingertips to help serve other people. You know, money's really there just as something that you use as a medium of exchange for either services or products, you know, rendered or purchased. We could just as easily be exchanging pieces of rock or grains of sand, for that matter. But too many people get into this mindset where money is the end-all, do-all of everything, and then at that point in time they become a servant of the money. And that's where, if things fall apart, that some people decide that they have to cover it up or lie about it, and you know they really fall back on a more of a lack and limitation mindset because they had it and now they don't, and so now they get into this woe is me, I lack this, I lack that. They focus their energy on that, and then they get more and more of the same, and you can see people read about them in the news all over the place. They spiral downward over and over and over again, and that's because they have this lack or this poverty mindset instead of a prosperity mindset, which, as you said, you know, money is just money. And as long as we don't attach a huge meaning to it, it's going to continue to serve us because that's what it's really there to do. What do you think about that, Randy?
Oh, I agree, and I think the big key is when people actually start getting into significant money, it is challenging for some, and they don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to handle the lifestyle, and it hurts them in the long run. And Linda and I talked about this a few days ago, and my thought is it's great to get to that position, and again, it's not so much the money aspect, but when you do get to that position, have balance in your life. Don't look at just using the money for all of the tangibles in life, the homes, the cars, and all that. That's great, you know, but keep it in balance because someday any business has peaks and valleys. And the question is, what are you going to do when you're back down into a valley for a little bit of time? Are you going to be so scared because now you've got to take care of all of these things that you have, the homes, the cars and stuff, and trying to maintain that while you're in that valley and rebuilding your business? And when you're in that situation, are you going to end up basically selling your soul to just make money? I'd prefer not to get into that situation. I'd prefer to have balance, so when those valleys do hit in business, you're comfortable, you're okay. You're living very comfortably and you're living a very good life, and you can rebuild without, basically, as they'd say, selling your soul to the devil. And unfortunately, some people just haven't picked up on that yet in life. And so, I would say be cautious. By all means, everybody wants to make money, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you're getting into a business just to make money, you're in it for the wrong reason. You need to be getting into whatever business it is because you have a passion for it, you have a love for it, and you're willing to help serve others. And when you get those things accomplished, the money will come along.
No, I absolutely agree. It's funny. I just thought of something, Randy, as you were talking. I was sitting with Peter Palkington and I can't remember one of the other. There's two other guys that had hockey teams at the time, and I happened to say, we were talking about money and success and stuff like that. It was actually at a show that we were actually doing for entrepreneurship, and I said, I still get excited when I find $5 in my pocket. When you put away your winter jacket, and maybe you guys don't have to do that, but I do, and we all laughed. Because they said the same thing. We do too. Like, it's funny how I never lost the luster because I'm just simply out there living my life. And you're right, Linda, the vehicle is if I need money to do something, it's always there for me. And it's because I drive myself there. And I know that sounds stupid to some people, that how can you even say that? But I know that in your life, if you've ever been down to the dust and you needed something bad enough and you really needed it bad enough, somewhere in life, an opportunity came around and presented itself to you where you could have it. It may not have been, I need a computer, and a computer landed on your lap, but maybe a job promotion opened up, or somebody said, hey, can you help me do this and I'll give you $20. It always happens that way.
It does, Mark, and all throughout our lives together, things like that have happened. We had struggles. I think that a lot of people, or most people, do go through times of struggle, especially if you really don't understand mindset concepts and energy and the way that the universe works. But there was a faith or a belief built inside of both of us. And, I remember when, after our first child was born, it's just funny, I decided that, I was going to leave my job for moral reasons. We closed on a house, and I found out I was pregnant all in the same month. That's just the way I roll. But, we didn't know how it was all going to work out, but Mark, it did. And you're right. Sometimes we were on our last $20, and then all of a sudden something happened. But we always had that faith. We would look at each other. You know what? I don't know how it's going to work out, but I know it's going to be okay. And it was that internal faith and belief that whatever we needed to do, we would do it, and things would happen. I mean, that's how I was trained by Bob Proctor. I didn't know where the money was going to come from to do that. I just know that this was what I needed and wanted to do at that particular point in time. And I had faith that it was going to happen, and it did. So I guess that's a word that we can leave everyone with tonight, Mark. I know I had something else written down to leave us with, but I think that having faith in yourself and belief in a higher power, whatever you want to call it, can get you where you want to go.
And I totally agree with that. Don't make up excuses and have faith in yourself. So that's how we'll leave our show tonight. I want to thank you, Linda and Randy, for hanging out again tonight with me and giving people some ideas about attending events and being successful, because it's all important. All of it is important. So keep your mind open and keep the faith. So we'll see you again next Monday night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.